How we doing on this Monday, Big Orange Nation? This is Frank. This is the House of Orange Sports Channel with you. The big question right now with Tennessee basketball as we come down the stretch with 4 games to go is, can this program get the first number 1 seed in program history? And we'll talk about that here in a minute. Make sure you hit that like, that share, that subscribe as well. Thank you guys so much for your support along the ways. We had a good weekend on here with picking up subs and just support of the channel. So thank you guys so much for that. The big question is, can Tennessee get to that number 1 seed for the first time in program history? It is possible. It is possible. It's going to take some work, though. Tennessee today comes in the AP poll at 5. Auburn, Duke, Florida, Houston, and Tennessee were your top 5 on the day. Based on that, we need some things to happen. Now, the easiest way, of course, for Tennessee to get to a 1 seed, win your remaining 4 games, win the SEC tournament. I think at that point, I don't know that there's any way you could deny Tennessee a 1 seed, because at that point, Tennessee would be 29-5. Because as of right now, they have the tiebreaker as the 4 seed in the SEC conference tournament over Texas A&M and Missouri. They've beaten both of them. They do have that tiebreaker. So as of now, they would be the 4 seed. So that means they would not play until Friday. So you would play Friday, Saturday, Sunday to win it. And now I don't think they necessarily have to win out for it to happen, but still yet, that's the easiest way for me. I don't see how you deny them if they were to win out. Here's my thoughts on it. I think Auburn, unless Auburn has a collapse, which I don't see happening, I think Auburn is going to be a lock for a 1 seed. Auburn's remaining schedule right now, they play Ole Miss. That will be, the 26th. That is going to be Wednesday night. Ole Miss, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. They're at Kentucky Saturday at 1. They play at Texas A&M on March the 4th, and then they finish with Alabama at home. It's a pretty tough schedule Auburn has left. We'll see. Ole Miss at home, I think there's a good shot. They'll, especially that one being at Auburn, I think they take care of business there. At Kentucky, I mean, who knows with Kentucky? Kentucky seems to play to their competition. It seems like Kentucky's got some really good wins. Kentucky has some pretty rough losses on the year as well. Obviously, they've beaten Tennessee twice. We all know that along the way. But, who knows? Who knows which Kentucky team shows up? Kentucky has been battling injuries right now as well. But I'll be honest, I think Auburn goes up and takes care of business at Lexington, at Texas A&M. I could see Auburn, this is a gauntlet. I could see Auburn running the table on this. I really could. Auburn's, say what you want about them and stuff, but they're the best team in college basketball for a reason. And, as long as they're healthy, they're going to have a hard time. Teams going to have a hard time beating them. Now, is it possible they slip up in one of these games against either Kentucky or A&M? Sure. It's definitely possible. I mean, it's the SEC. It's road games. Who knows with that one? But, looking at it so far, Auburn has not played Texas A&M. They did beat Alabama at Alabama. So the final game, Alabama at Auburn, I think Auburn probably takes care of business again. They did play at Ole Miss, beat them 92-82 earlier in the season. They have not played Kentucky, nor have they played Texas A&M. So I think it's very possible they could win out. I really do. I just think they're better than Kentucky and they're better than Texas A&M, even though those are on the road. They're losable games, but we'll see on that. Duke at number 2. The ACC schedule just sucks, man. There's nothing. Duke, really, if you look at – now, I'll have to say, we beat Illinois on a buzzer beater. Duke beat the crap out of Illinois this past week. That was a pretty impressive win. Duke's currently 24-3. Looking at their remaining schedule, they're at Miami. They play Florida State at home, Wake Forest, and then they're at North Carolina. You can never discount Duke, North Carolina. But I think Duke's easily the best team in the ACC. Their only losses, so they lost at Clemson, who Clemson's looking like a pretty good team. They lost to then number one Kansas early in the season, and they lost to Kentucky early in the season. Well, Kansas was preseason number one, and they dropped out of the polls altogether today. So they're a team not playing very good basketball. But you look at that ACC, Duke, they don't play any really. Wake Forest is decent. North Carolina is 10-6. I mean, but Wake Forest will play at Cameron, and then North Carolina is at Chapel Hill. So that's the one that bears watching. I think Miami, they're the worst team in the ACC. Duke takes care of business there. Florida State 7-9, 16-11. That's going to be at Cameron. Duke takes care of business on that one. And then I really don't think it'll matter what happens in the ACC tournament at that point. Duke is more than likely a 1 seed. I think Auburn, barring that Auburn doesn't just, have a rough end of the season, I think those two are locks. Florida is going to be an interesting one because right now Florida is considered a 1 seed on it. Looking at Florida, their remaining schedule, they are at Georgia, which teams that have gone to Georgia have had tough times with them. They play Texas A&M at home. They're at Alabama, and then they close the year versus Ole Miss. That's a pretty tough schedule right there as well. But, I mean, it's the same thing that I talked about with Auburn. Auburn has a tougher last 4. This is pretty tough, too, for Florida. If Florida gets through that and they win at least a game, I don't see how you move them out of the 1 seed. I really don't. And, Florida loses, say, 1 game here, and then they win 1 or 2 in the SEC tournament. I don't see how you move them off the 1 line. I really don't. Here's where, to me, it gets interesting. But Houston is 4 right now. And I've seen some saying Alabama. I'll get to Alabama here in a minute. But Houston, here's what we really need with Houston. They're ranked 4th. They play the rest of the way. Tonight, they play Texas Tech at 9. It's at Texas Tech. We need Texas Tech to win that game to have a shot, I really think, because then Houston plays Cincinnati. They get Kansas at home. They're at Baylor. Houston stands a good chance to run the table, definitely after tonight. But this is the one game we really need. We really need Texas Tech to beat Houston tonight. We have a real shot. Or I don't know about a real. We have a good shot, man. I think if Houston runs the table and has a good Big 12 tournament, they're probably your 1 seed. So, Tennessee's got work to do. They've got to take care of their own, but they need help as well. The others that we're looking at here, of course, Alabama is ranked 6th. Alabama's schedule is pretty wild here. I don't see any way Alabama runs the table. And their remaining schedule right now, they play Mississippi State tomorrow night at 9, at Tennessee Saturday, versus Florida March the 5th, at Auburn to conclude the season. I could see Alabama losing a couple games here. I always, for the most part, take a team at home. So when they play Florida at home, they're similar teams. I think Alabama has a good shot to win that one at home. At Auburn, I don't see it, especially after Auburn come in and beat them at Tuscaloosa. I don't see Alabama coming to Knoxville and win. I just don't. Rick Barnes plays that style pretty well. Mississippi State, I feel like they've been kind of inconsistent. It's at Alabama. I expect Alabama to take care of business on that one. If you're Tennessee and you beat Alabama and then Bama loses maybe 1 more, I think that takes them out of the running for a 1 seed. I really do. Now, if they were to come up and get hot and win the SEC conference tournament, who knows? Those things you never know from 1 year to the next if those things are going to matter or not. I mean, like the year Tennessee won it, it was said they were fighting for a 2 seed. It made no difference in it. Other years, it makes a difference. Because I think last year, them losing, getting drilled by Mississippi State, possibly knocked them out of a 1 seed last year. So, it's like anything with the NCAA. It's 1 year to the next. And then, looking at a couple others that I see possibly that could sneak in. If you had enough teams, I really think it's going to come down to those 6 teams that can make a difference in the 1 seeds. But a team like St. John's, who's now 24-4, if they run the table, they run through the Big East tournament, could they then, if some teams slip up, sneak their way up into a 1 seed? I think they would need a lot of help, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities either. And then you got Michigan State there at 22-5 right now. Same thing with them. It's 2 major conference champions. If they were to take care of business the rest of the season and then take care of business in their conference tournaments, they'll have a case, but I think they're going to need some help. So to me, the most obvious path, again, is Houston to lose tonight, and then Tennessee. Obviously, if Tennessee wins out and then they win, 1 or 2 games in the SEC tournament, I think that with Houston losing, that would get them a 1 seed. Because, again, I don't see Auburn coming off of Duke. Duke's not coming off of the 1 line. The question's going to be around Florida, Houston, Tennessee in that regard. And Tennessee's schedule is favorable. It starts tomorrow night, though, and taking care of business against LSU. And LSU's the worst team in the conference, but you cannot take it for granted. I say South Carolina's the worst in the conference. LSU's the second worst team in the conference. But, we've seen it numerous times. You cannot take these road games for granted. Georgia's gotten some good wins at home. Oklahoma's gotten some good wins at home also. Tennessee's schedule's favorable because you get Alabama at home. At Ole Miss is very winnable. It's very winnable. You can go down if you don't show up and lose that game, though. Let's make no mistake about it. That's a good basketball team. Tennessee, worst case, to me, has to go 3-1 and then make some noise in the SEC tournament. If they do that, I think they'll have a shot, barring that Houston or Florida have some losses along the way. If Houston wins tonight and takes care of business, that one's out of the equation. It'll come down to then, I think, Florida or Tennessee. And if Florida takes care of business for the most part, then Tennessee's going to be a high 2 seed. They'll probably be paired. They should be paired with Houston in that regard. But I'll be honest, it would not hurt my feelings to see Tennessee paired with Duke either. I think Tennessee could give Duke a real hard time. Because we saw it I know this is not the same teams, but Tennessee's physical brand of basketball, I think, would give Duke a lot of trouble along the way. Houston would be more of a matchup issue, in my opinion, than Duke would be. But, it's a tall task to beat any of these teams up the top. There's no doubt about it. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some work. First thing you got to do, though, is take care of business on your end. You got to take care of business on your end because, with Tennessee, again, LSU, Alabama at home Saturday, Ole Miss next Wednesday, South Carolina the final Saturday to wrap it up. There's no excuse to let LSU or South Carolina beat you. No excuse at all with it. Alabama is one of those, if they get hot, it could be a tough day. But if Tennessee plays their defense on them like they have last couple of years, it'll make it rough for Alabama to come in and win. Then at Ole Miss, it's the same thing. You got to play your game against them because it's a good basketball team. It'll be a tough road game. I don't think there's any doubt about that one. But if you're Tennessee, you've still got that path. Right now, you've got that double bye in the SEC tournament. But, again, to me, the most obvious is we need Houston to lose to Texas Tech tonight. If that happens, I think that puts Tennessee over Houston. But, barring what happens with conference tournaments, you never know. You never know how the committee looks at that one. I'm going to wrap up on that one. Again, make sure you hit that like, that share, that subscribe as well. And then check out the link in the description as well for the channel memberships, the channel Patreon. Those do go help the channel. They are greatly appreciated. Or if you just want to say thanks, there is the super thanks option in the bottom right-hand corner. Those are always greatly appreciated as well. But this is Frank. This is the House of Orange Sports Channel. Have a great rest of your evening, and go Vols.